Hey everyone, Lanny Barnes here, and I have my twin sister Tracy with me. We're going to talk to you today about our Olympics experience and some of the great and challenging things that we faced along the way.
Like Lanny said, we are Olympians in the sport of biathlon. Biathlon is cross-country skiing and rifle marksmanship.
We may think it's one of the hardest sports in the world, but it definitely is very challenging. You're combining a skill sport of shooting with an endurance sport of cross-country skiing, covering miles and miles of trails over, rough terrain, up and down hills on tiny little cross-country skis. It's one of those things where, for us, it was incredibly addicting. When we were able to combine the two things, skiing and shooting, and it came together, it was the best feeling in the world. But for us, and for most biathletes, it's a rare thing when both things come together and you actually have a really great day. There's so many variables involved: wind, snow, sleet, hail. It's definitely a big mental game as well.
Yeah, commonly in Europe, our competitions would see between 20 and 30,000 spectators. So, and they're all screaming behind you, about less than 50 yards behind you, screaming when you came into the range and cheering you on, or booing you, I guess, if you missed. So there was definitely a lot of pressure involved in the sport. So our Olympic career started with the 2002 Salt Lake Olympic trials. We were still junior athletes then, so we were a little young, but then we went to Europe and had some success over there.
We ended up being the first women to ever medal in the World Junior Championships for our sport. It gave us motivation kind of going into the future. Motivation is something that is hard to come by sometimes in biathlon when you're constantly training hard, and it's like Tracy said, it's a long-term sport, so you may not see results right away, and so that motivation really helped us.
Yeah, after having some success in Italy at the World Junior Championships and seeing that we could do well, it just kind of sparked this idea in our head, maybe we could win a gold medal, and that would, at that point, it would be the first gold medal for the U.S. There hadn't been one in the Olympics. So after the 2002 Olympic Games, we went on to 2006. So the tryouts for the Olympic team are probably some of the most miserable experience in life. It's a very, very long, drawn out process. It starts, fairly early in the summer with some trials races. You start with a larger pool of athletes, and then you get down to just before the games, you have a fairly small pool of athletes, and you have even more trials at that point to determine the last remaining spots on the Olympic team. So in 2006, the Olympic trials were held in Fort Kent, Maine. This was our second Olympic trials, so we had experienced it before, but this was one we fully expected and hoped to make the team, and so therefore, of course, put a lot of pressure on ourselves. I made the team based off the first couple of races, and then Lanny, I think, squeaked in right at the end and just barely, but luckily made the team. So we went to the 2006 Olympics. Those were held in Torino, Italy, being our first Olympics. It was quite an experience. Our eyes were, this big. We learned a lot. We did terrible. I think we got sick again. But it was a good experience, and it kind of further lit that fire for us wanting to try to win a gold medal for the U.S. at an Olympics.
So after that, another 4 years of hard training and really getting after it. We saw a lot of improvement, some success overseas and things like that, in World Cups. And, Vancouver is the next Olympics. It's as close to home as we're going to get during our Olympic career. So we kind of looked at it as kind of a home court advantage, and really set our sights on that.
4 years passed since the 2006 Olympics in Torino, and we find ourselves at the Olympic trials again, that wonderful experience that we absolutely love. Start out throughout the entire summer and into the fall and winter, the trials process. Again, we had a pretty good chance of making this Olympic team. The Olympic trials were being held in Germany, and there was 6 women competing for 5 spots. So it whittled down from a larger pool of women down to 6 of us, and 5 of us were making the team, and 1 poor person was going home. So we definitely did not want to be that one person that was going home. And we felt we had a pretty good chance. So we'd start that trials out. First race of the trials, I absolutely bombed. It was terrible. I did awful. Probably put a little bit too much pressure on myself. But there's usually three races in the trials. They pick the best 2 out of 3. And so I felt no big deal. I can come back from this. Lanny was having decent races, and so things were looking pretty good for her. The second race comes along, fairly decent race for me, a lot better than the first, and so I knew if I had a good race on the third race, I could make the team. And luckily for me, the third race was in a format that really benefited my skills. It was 4 shooting stages, so I was fairly confident that, you know, with a good race, I could make the team. So we wake up that morning of the last race and look outside, and you can't see more than, like, you know, a couple feet in front of you. The fog had set in bad. You know, every once in a while you'll see fog, but it'll burn off, and this didn't. So they canceled the races, and originally we thought no big deal because, you know, they always reschedule if there's some sort of weather issue or something like that. But for some reason, they didn't on this one. You train hard for 4 years, and then you wake up one day and the weather is off just a little bit, and just like that, your dream of making an Olympic team and going to the Olympics and medaling for your country and all that, everything you've worked hard for the last 4 years is gone. You don't have a second chance. It's done. So I was, of course, devastated, and then went home, and it was tough. I didn't fully realize the extent of what had happened until I think I got home and started talking with some of my friends and family back home, and they're like, wow, you know, gosh, that sucks. and then it really just set in, the fact that I didn't make the team, and I just really realized, like, what that meant. You know, 4 years hard working every day, and, you know, didn't make it. Went to the Olympics, this time watching Lanny. So it was a really, being on the sidelines was an interesting experience because I definitely wanted to be racing, but I think it was a great experience because it made me hungry. I watched Lanny compete in Vancouver. She had one of the best women's U.S. finishes at an Olympics, and she hit 19 out of 20 targets. That one target that she missed was off just by about that much. Had she hit that last 20 for 20 shots, she would have most likely medaled. So she was that far from a medal. So I think it was motivating for both of us because we realized, well, hey, we were that close, like that close. And I knew, because I trained with Lanny on a daily basis, I knew that that's something that I could achieve as well. So again, it just further lit that fire for us, like knowing that, you know, maybe I can do this. We both get back into training, fast forward 4 years of hard training and, you know, all that sort of stuff, a lot of racing in Europe and ups and downs and all that sort of stuff. And now we are on to the 2014 Olympic trials. So the Olympics this year are going to be held in Sochi, Russia. Before we start on to the story for that, we're going to show you a little bit of a video clip here.
Excellent. Across. Slightly bit and kind of do a...
Do I stay here?
For me, it's been the injuries. That's the biggest setback that I've had.
I put too much pressure on myself. You train hard on summer and push yourself, and it doesn't work in winter. Not on the first race, but on the second, on the third, and this makes me struggle.
When I was younger, everything was much easier, and you're invincible.
Sometimes you have physical limitation. Sometimes it's hard to combine school and the sports.
It's hard to bear the pressure of the relay. You don't want to do mistakes for the other one.
After last year, I did not know if I could continue. I was so unhappy. I knew I still had something more to give, and I decided to continue with biathlon just to try to be the best biathlete I could be, and it was the right choice. Behind the sport, we all have real challenges every day.
Last autumn, We find a concert of my girlfriend just before the season of Olympic Games. In this moment, you know, biathlon is not important, it's life, it's important. My girlfriend say, take some pressure on the race and you will be happy. I find some happiness because I know I'm on the ski every time. That's my job, that's also my passion, and for my girlfriend, that's find some energy for her.
Спорт дал мне возможность реализоваться полностью в моей жизни.
Biathlon told me there is always a new chance.
What I learned in biathlon is to accept.
Biathlon teach me
To be happy.
Passion wins over stress.
Я научилась ценить жизнь. And biathlon is the biggest family in the world.
Biathlon made me
More mature.
More confident.
Motivated.
happy.
Sport is a metaphor for life.
It's normal that life is struggling sometimes.
Life is not so easy.
And it's really hard to accept it.
Everyone has their own way to overcome their difficulties.
But resilience is so important.
So,
Don't give up.
Like they said in that video, biathlon was a struggle. Lanny talked a bit about it in the beginning, how biathlon is one of those sports that when everything comes together, it's the most beautiful feeling in the whole world. And every day in biathlon, you strive to make it all come together, to have that perfect race. And I'd say 19 out of 20 times, you don't have that perfect race. You know, it's definitely a struggle, and it's so like life. You know, there's
learn how to make the most out of whatever situation is thrown at you, and that's one thing that we learned in our journey with biathlon is that there's a lot of things you can control. You know, things that you do, but there's a lot that you can't control. You know, like the weather and other competitors, and you know, things like that, and so it taught us how to focus on the things that we could control and the things that were most important in life. And you know, sometimes some of those things weren't necessarily sport. You know, some of those things we realized were family and relationships and friends and things like that.
sometimes you can have injuries come up or sicknesses or, you know, things like that, and you know, life throws a lot of different things at you, and it's a struggle, but you know, like I said, you never give up. Here we found ourselves at the 2014 Olympic trials, same kind of setup as we've seen before. You start the trials out in the summer and it just whittles down all through the fall and into the winter. Again, we are overseas for the last bit of trials just before the Olympics, and there are 6 women trying for those 5 coveted Olympic spots. And this time we're feeling really pretty good about our chances. The trials are being held in Italy in one of our favorite venues at altitude. I mean, what could go wrong? It was, you know, we're feeling great. So the Olympic trials start. My first race was okay, not a bad race, I'll take it. Second race was even better. So I'm sitting in a good position to make the Olympic team. So I'm getting ready to race the last race. That night, I didn't hardly sleep at all because something was bothering me. And that something was, Lanny was sick and she wasn't able to race. She raced one of the races, but that kind of put her under even more. And so she was pretty much done for the Olympic trials. She was really sick, and that was very hard for me to watch because I knew at this point that she was going to be that sixth person. She wasn't going to make the Olympic team. And so going into that last race, I knew whatever kind of race I had, I probably had it in the bag, because if she couldn't race, I mean, she wasn't going to make it. She was going to be that one person going home. And I didn't sleep at all that night. It just was the most horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach, just watching, I trained with her every day for the last 15 plus years, through so many struggles and so many triumphs and victories and mostly struggles. I knew how bad she wanted this, and I knew how bad and what it meant to her to make this Olympic team. And so to see that was just breaking my heart. But I knew I still had to go out there and race. It's one of those things, you got to get up, got to go to work. It was a struggle that night. Didn't get any sleep, which didn't help racing because you have to be rested. So I go out there for the last race, and I'm at the start line, and just so many emotions are going through my head. I don't know what to do. And then you can hear the buzzer just counting down to the start of my last race there at the trials. And then something just clicked in my head, and I was able to let go. And that's such a hard thing to do, but I did. Then the buzzer goes off, I push off, I ski down the course, and it was for me, it was effortless. You finally let go of something. And so I had one of the best races of my life. I hit all my targets. Skiing was, I had a top 10 finish at that international competition. So it was a pretty good result for me. And I finished the race with just this huge, enormous weight lifted off my shoulders. And it was a great feeling. I did the race and I made the Olympic team. So obviously after not having made the Olympic team 4 years ago in Vancouver, I was super excited to make the Olympic team now, to be going to Russia to represent the US. There's no greater honor than that. So I was pretty excited. So that night we had a little team dinner and everything, and they announced the Olympic team, amongst the athletes are there. It's pretty informal sort of announcement, because we all kind of know already who made it, who didn't, based off of the races and everything. So at the announcement there, I turn and I look at Lanny and I wink at her, and she's kind of okay, that's weird. She never winks at me. But anyways, after that, after they announced it, I walked up to the coach and I said, I'm going to decline my spot on the Olympic team. And I just feel that there's someone else who deserves that spot on a team. When that happens, when someone declines their spot on a team, they give the spot to the person next in line, which was Lanny. So I gave my spot on the Olympic team to Lanny. And that was when I was at the start line getting ready to race. That was that weight that was lifted off my shoulders. I knew that was the right thing to do, that when someone is struggling and you have the opportunity to help them, you help them. That it was, for me, it was an easy decision, because every bone in my body and who I am is based off of helping others. I mean, I'm a twin. God put me here, a clone essentially of Lanny. And so, I feel like there's two of us for a reason, and part of that is to help others when we can. So that was my goal in life and gift to others. When I see someone struggling, I want to help them. And so when I saw Lanny just absolutely devastated that her Olympic dream and probably Olympic career at this point, because we were thinking that maybe we might end up retiring after that, was over. It was going to be hard for her to face that reality that she was going home. I had lived that reality 4 years ago, and I know what that feeling is like. We've all been there where we have struggled, we have lost a job, we have seen sickness, and we have seen death, and we have seen just some rotten things, and sometimes it doesn't seem like we're going to make it through it, but we do, and we come out a bit stronger. And I feel like that's what happened for me in Vancouver. I came out stronger, and that experience of not making the team was able to help me see things in a different perspective and allow me to help someone when they needed it the most.
Obviously, it shocked me when Tracy did that. I wasn't expecting her to give up her dream so I could realize mine. We got a lot of comments from people after the Olympics, well, during and after. You know, that's so amazing that she'd do that. I don't know if I could do that for someone else. And you know, it's one of those things where we're facing a really challenging time right now, but that doesn't mean that you can't help someone. I mean, we all have to look out for ourselves and our families and things like that, and make sure that we're all staying healthy and you know, getting through these tough times. But there's plenty of people out there that you can help, and it could be in some small way. You know, it doesn't have to necessarily be as life-changing as what Tracy did, but it could be anything. What Tracy did taught me a lot of lessons as well, and I feel like most people, if they're given the opportunity, they'll do the right thing. We all have an opportunity right now to do the right thing and make a difference in someone's life. So hopefully Tracy's story will help motivate you to do the right thing and help people out, because we all go through tough times. We all experience good things, bad things. You know, we say life is not for sissies. Well, it's true. You know, if you can make it to the end without having bumps and you know, challenges along the way, you know, you're very fortunate, because most people don't have a smooth path laid out in front of them. Sport is very similar to life in that you're always going to have ups and downs, and you're going to have things that you don't expect that tear you down, that you can't control. You know, Tracy couldn't control the weather. I couldn't control getting sick. You know, it's just one of those things that it just happened for who knows what reason. You know, sometimes you just have to take what you have, what you do have, and what you can control, and make the most out of it.
They're called scars for a reason, because ultimately you're healing, you know, and you come back stronger. No matter what your struggle is right now, or your families or your friends or whomever is struggling, like they said in that video, never give up, and just keep pushing ahead, and you'll come back stronger.
Well, you guys, thanks so much for joining us today. We're happy to talk to you guys and share our story. If you have any other questions, want more information, or just want to hear more about our journey, just look us up on Facebook or social media, give us a call, email, you know, things like that. And good luck with whatever you decide to do.